6 days a week, rain or shine. Approximately 330,000 letter carriers traverse American neighborhoods, delivering everything from birthday cards to ballots, prescriptions to packages. It's a daily ritual so consistent that we've taken it for granted for generations. But what if that familiar daily rhythm suddenly changed? What if your mail only came every other day? This isn't a hypothetical question. The United States Postal Service has repeatedly explored a fundamental shift to every other day delivery as it faces mounting financial pressures and changing communication patterns. Behind the seemingly simple schedule change lies a complex web of economic implications, social consequences, and political battles that would transform an American institution dating back to 1775. The hidden impact of America's Postal Service revolution. To understand what's at stake, we need to first understand how we got here. The United States Postal Service has been woven into the fabric of American life since before the nation's founding, when Benjamin Franklin served as the first Postmaster General under the Continental Congress. Today's USPS is a massive operation, delivering approximately 425 million pieces of mail each day to 163 million delivery points across the country. It employs over 640,000 people and operates more than 31,000 post offices, making it one of the nation's largest employers. But beneath this impressive scale lies a troubling financial reality. The Postal Service has reported net losses for 16 consecutive years, losing $6.5 billion in fiscal year 2023 alone. First-class mail volume, long the service's primary revenue source, has plummeted by over 45% since its peak in 2001 as Americans increasingly communicate digitally. Meanwhile, the USPS faces unique financial constraints. Unlike other federal agencies, it receives no taxpayer funding for operating expenses, relying instead on the sale of postage and services. Yet Congress still determines many aspects of its operations, from delivery frequency to pricing. Most critically, a 2006 law required the Postal Service to pre-fund retiree health benefits 75 years into the future, an extraordinary requirement not imposed on any other public or private entity. This mandate alone costs the USPS over $5 billion annually for a decade, though the legislation in 2022 finally relieved some of this burden. Enter the every other day delivery proposal. The concept is straightforward. Rather than delivering to every address 6 days a week, carriers would deliver to half the routes on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and the other half on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. The potential savings are substantial. The USPS estimates this change could save approximately $3 to $4 billion annually through reduced labor, transportation, and facility costs. These savings come primarily from needing fewer letter carriers, as each carrier could cover a larger territory by visiting different sections on alternating days. But this seemingly simple schedule change would have far-reaching consequences across American society, the economy, and even politics. Let's examine what would really happen if mail delivery shifted to every other day. Perhaps nowhere would feel the change more acutely than rural America. While digital alternatives exist for many urban and suburban residents, approximately 42 million Americans lack broadband internet access, concentrated heavily in rural communities. For these Americans, mail remains a critical lifeline, not just for communication, but for commerce, healthcare, and financial services. Rural letter carriers often serve as unofficial community touchpoints, checking on elderly residents and providing a crucial connection to the outside world. Ann Johnson, a postmaster in rural Montana, explained it in this way. In communities like ours, the mail carrier might be the only person some residents see for days. When someone doesn't collect their mail, we notice. I can't count how many times we've alerted authorities to check on someone who might need help. One of the most significant impacts would be on medication delivery. The Department of Veteran Affairs alone ships approximately 80% of its outpatient prescriptions by mail, around 120 million prescriptions annually. Medicare beneficiaries and others with chronic conditions similarly rely on mail-order prescriptions. With every other day delivery, someone expecting a time-sensitive medication might wait an additional day for the prescription to arrive. For most, this would be an inconvenience, but for others with critical medical needs, it could have serious consequences. Small businesses would face another set of challenges. Despite the rise of electronic payments, many small businesses still rely heavily on the mail for sending invoices and receiving payments. A study by the Federal Reserve found that 42% of business-to-business transactions still involve paper checks sent through the mail. For these businesses, Delayed mail means delayed cash flow, a critical consideration for enterprises operating on tight margins. Every additional day waiting for payment can impact everything from inventory purchases to payroll. James Wilson, who runs a printing company in Ohio, said, "We're already working with net 30 payment terms. If you add another day or two for mail delivery on both ends, sending the invoice and receiving the check, that could push us to net 35 or longer. For a small business like mine, that difference can determine whether I make payroll." The shift to every other day delivery would also highlight America's persistent digital divide. For the approximately 15% of American adults who don't use the internet, mail remains an essential service for everything from paying bills to receiving important notices. These Americans are disproportionately elderly, lower income, rural, and from minority communities. Postal service reductions would affect these vulnerable populations the most, potentially deepening existing inequalities in access to essential services. Perhaps the most consequential and controversial impact would be on elections. Vote by mail has grown significantly, with approximately 43% of 2020 general election votes cast by mail, partly due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but reflecting a longer-term trend toward mail voting. With every other day delivery, election officials would need to adjust timelines and voter education efforts. Voters would need to mail ballots earlier to ensure on-time arrival, and states might need to extend the period during which they accept and count mail ballots. The political implications are significant enough that postal delivery schedules have become entangled in partisan debates. Both Democratic and Republican lawmakers have expressed concerns about changes that might affect their constituents' voting access, though they often disagree about solutions. For the Postal Service workforce, the change would be seismic. The USPS is one of the nation's largest employers of veterans, with nearly 100,000 veteran employees. It has historically provided stable, middle-class jobs with benefits, particularly important in rural communities with limited employment options. Under an every other day model, the USPS would need significantly fewer carriers, potentially reducing its workforce by tens of thousands of positions through attrition or layoffs. The National Association of Letter Carriers estimates the change could eliminate 50,000 to 80,000 jobs nationwide. Mark Diamondstein, president of the American Postal Workers Union, doesn't mince words. This isn't just about changing delivery schedules, it's about whether we preserve the Postal Service as a public good that serves everyone, everywhere at affordable rates, or whether we allow it to be dismantled piece by piece. Looking abroad provides some insight into how alternate day delivery might work. Several countries, including Canada, Australia, and the Netherlands, have already reduced delivery frequency for standard mail. Canada Post, for example, eliminated urban home delivery entirely in 2013, requiring residents to retrieve mail from community mailboxes. Australia Post moved to every other day delivery for regular mail in 2015, while maintaining daily delivery for express and priority items. The results have been mixed. These services achieved cost savings, but faced significant public backlash. Canada partially reversed its decision after widespread complaints, particularly from elderly and disabled residents who struggle to access community mailboxes. Proponents of postal reform argue that there are alternatives to reducing delivery frequency. These include removing unusual financial requirements like the pre-funding mandate, allowing more flexibility in pricing, and expanding financial services at post office, and modernizing operations. Postal banking, for instance, could generate new revenue while providing financial services to the approximately 7.1 million American households without bank accounts. This approach has proven successful in many countries, including Japan, Germany, and the United Kingdom. Technological modernization represents another path forward. While the USPS has invested in automation, many of its facilities still use equipment dating back decades. More advanced sorting technology could reduce labor costs while maintaining delivery frequency. One of the most interesting aspects of this debate is what delivery frequency change would mean for packages, the one bright spot in the Postal Service's business model. While letter volume has declined precipitously, package delivery has surged, especially since the pandemic accelerated e-commerce adoption. Under most proposals, package delivery would continue daily even if letter mail shifted to every other day delivery. This creates a logistical paradox. Carriers would still travel most routes daily for packages, potentially undermining the cost savings of reduced letter delivery. Logistics expert Sarah Thompson explains, the USPS has an advantage in last-mile package delivery because carriers are already visiting every address for letter mail. If you separate these systems, you lose the economies of scale that make USPS package delivery so cost-effective. At the heart of this debate lies a more fundamental question. What is the purpose of the Postal Service in modern America? The USPS operates under a universal service obligation, a commitment to provide affordable service to everyone, regardless of location, at uniform prices. The mandate explains why the USPS delivers to remote Alaskan villages by bush plane and to the bottom of the Grand Canyon by mule, services that would never be profitable but fulfill the constitutional mandate to establish post offices and post roads. The debate over delivery frequency thus becomes a debate about values. Is the Postal Service primarily a business that should operate profitably? Or is it a public service that provides an essential function regardless of cost effectiveness? Public reaction to proposed delivery changes has been decidedly mixed. Urban residents with multiple delivery options tend to be more accepting of reduced frequency, while rural communities and certain demographics express stronger concerns. Polling data reveals an interesting pattern. When asked about Postal Service changes in the abstract, many Americans express openness to reduced frequency to save costs. But when presented with specific impacts, delayed medications, slower bill payments, effects on small business, support drops significantly. A particularly revealing statistic, about 91% of Americans view the Postal Service favorably, the highest rating of any federal agency. This reservoir of goodwill creates both opportunities and challenges for implementing controversial changes. Given these complexities, it's unsurprising that postal reform has become a political battlefield. Efforts to change delivery frequency have been proposed by both Republican and Democratic administrations, though with different emphasis and concerns. The debate intensified in 2020 when Postmaster General Louis DeJoy implemented operational changes that slowed mail delivery ahead of an election with unprecedented mail-in voting. While DeJoy insisted the changes were necessary operational improvements, the timing created a political firestorm. This discussion highlighted how changes to postal operations, even seemingly technical ones, can quickly become flashpoints into broader political battles about voting access, government services, and partisan advantage. What then would a shift to every other day delivery really mean for America? The answer varies dramatically depending on who and where you are. Beyond these individual impacts lies a deeper question about what kind of society we want to build. Do we value universal access to communication as a public good worth subsidizing? Or should market forces determine who receives what services and at what price? The debate over postal delivery frequency isn't really about how often the mail comes. It's about equality of access, the role of government in providing essential services, and the future of work in a changing economy, and even the nature of democracy itself. Despite the fact that the system has connected Americans for nearly 250 years, should we consider a seemingly simple change that could in reality transform the entire institution? As times change, the conversations should continue.